Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Heat Lab guide. My name is Foch and today we're taking the Ferrari 488 GT3 around Barcelona. This one Spanish track that we have in 1.8. I've heard rumors that we're getting a second one, but let's do a lap in Barcelona. As always, we'll talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the car here, the track itself on lap 1. And lap 2, we're gonna talk about the braking points. Then I'll show you the setup and then I'll send it on a hot lap. So Barcelona, very tricky track, very high tire degradation. Usually run in very hot conditions as well, fitting to Spain. Ferrari here, definitely one of the stronger cars, especially when it is proper hot, which, like I said, is quite the norm here. So generally pretty good car track combination. The track itself very technical, very aggressive curves that can be very frustrating until you learn on which ones you can and which ones you cannot go on. But once you get it all sorted out, the track has reasonably good flow until the last sector where we have the infamous chicane that most people generally despise. As a Ferrari driver, you shouldn't be too worried about it. The rotation of the car is very nice. The problem is that, as always, the car struggles with acceleration, making it not so great in this part of the exit. You also have to sacrifice quite a lot in the setup in order to make this take all the bumps. There's not that many, but there's still plenty to reduce your speed. So we're starting off with TC9 for the first part of this track. We're looking at the 100-meter board, braking a little bit before it. The ideal line is inside of the red curb on the green AstroTurf, but you cannot put yourself in the grass. The next corner we need to worry about is turn 3. We only need to lift for this corner, and then coming up for turn 4, we're braking before the last white line. Try to set up a better exit and not worry about the corner speed too much. This corner is very tricky. The best braking reference is 4th gear for a bit less than half a second. If you have a good exit, it's about time to brake. There's a slight rubber mark reference. Here we brake just before the curb on the right. Try to clip the inside curb. Don't go on it too much. This is the trickiest corner for me on the track. We lift when the white part of the curb starts. Try to actually clip the inside curb and then let off. And this is a very tricky braking zone. We go to TC6, brake a couple of car lengths before the 100-meter board. For my FOV, the windshield lines up really well. Here we only top the brakes down to 2nd gear. This is another tricky braking zone that is more about visual reference. And for the chicane, we brake hard just before the bridge. We try to go tight on the first part and try to get a good exit for the second part. And that is roughly how the braking points look here. There's not really a good way to show this. I might go into the replay and make a bit better braking references just for those last couple of corners. So like I said, here we slam the brakes just when this intersects the 100-meter board. For you, this might be different. There's also a tree references, but the tree references are harder to see just before we approach the last tree in our field of view. But it also really depends on what approach we have. You could use the yellow crane, but if you're trying to overtake, all these references are going to change. So this is just a very tricky corner for braking references. And then we go a bit more forwards. This corner also doesn't really have the best references. Orange wall on the left is something, but there's quite a bit of a difference. You can also do this on gearing. You spend a little bit of time in 3rd gear before you need to brake in the Ferrari. Obviously that's going to differ in other cars. So spending a little bit of time in 3rd when we brake, clip the curb, and here we just brake before the overhead thingy disappears from our field of view. And that's about it for the braking references, so let me show you the setup. So first of all, the important things as always to mention is that caster's personal preference, and very important to mention is that this is still made in 1.8, so from what we know in from 1.9, a lot of this might not work, so you know. use with your own caution. The basic things though is not maxed out for a bit more rear traction. The TC, as you'll see around the lap, I vary quite a lot. 9 TC for the first 4 corners, then 7 or 6 for the 5th, then back to 9 until the hairpin, and then 6 in the hairpin, and then also 6 at the last chicane, but 9 in between. So a lot of TC flexing here, something you probably should get used to. As that you could definitely find some lap time by being flexible with your TC settings. So this is how the mechanical grip looks like. Generally full preload for mid-corner stability, relatively soft wheel rates on the rear, and we have made the biggest sacrifices in the aero page for taking the bumps, as the mechanical side of things is nothing spectacular here. A little bit of bump stop rate to reduce the chance of bottoming out on some bumps, especially the one in the middle sector. Damper is not quite as extreme as we've used to in 1.8, but pretty close. And here's our compromises. So first things to take into account is that this is not a max wing setup, so it probably loses a little bit on the hot lap pace, as you will see in my hot lap that I'll do later. The car is a little bit faster, like a 10th or 2 at least with max wing. So if you want to run max wing, just go for 14 wing and maybe add 2 or 3 clicks of rake. But a setup like this is way more flexible in the race. It helps you defend against the cars behind, and it also actually allows you to overtake on the straight, as this car really struggles with the acceleration, and the straight on Barcelona is long enough to actually make use of the lower drag from the max swing. Very often your tire life will allow you to outpace the cars in front, and without lower wing it's going to be really difficult to overtake, but enough blabbing around. I'll leave you guys with a hot lap. I did make a mistake or 2 there, so there's definitely quite a bit more in the lap, but yeah, I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you on the next one.